With amazing graphics, consoles such as Xbox, PlayStation and speedy processors along with GPUs in our PC, it's easy to forget that just a couple of decades ago, gaming was a luxury that only a few could afford. But today, gaming has been a part of our lives, be it on a mobile, a console or a PC. It has enriched our lives with great gameplays, stories and graphics beyond imagination. According to Entertainment Software Association, 59% of Americans played video games in 2013. That same year, consumers spent $21.5 billion on video games. Now, before this all happened, let's take a look back at how gaming has evolved. The first ever documented game was by A.S. Douglas, a PhD candidate at the University of Cambridge in 1952. He created the first ever computer game, Nougats and Crosses, a tic-tac-toe game that runs on a computer at the university. Even the military had their own computer simulation game, Hotspiel. Now, most would argue that Nintendo was formally founded before all this. To be exact, they were founded in 1889, but never made games until 1972. Now, talking about the 70s, it's considered as the golden age for gamers as the first commercial arcade game was released by Nolan Bushnell and Ted Dabney, who would later found Atari. The game was called Computer Space, which was the first ever commercially sold video game. Soon after that, in 1971, Orion Trail was designed by Minnesota University students for the teletype. The game was later distributed in diskettes in 1978 after it was adapted to a computer in 1973. Now, Magnavox Odyssey was known as the first home console which connected to a TV, which was released in 1972. It was based on Ralph Baer's design. Today, he's known as the father of video games. Sadly, he passed away in 2014. Now, 1972 was considered a great year for gaming as the reign of Atari began. Nolan Bushnell and Al Akron developed Pong, a company training exercise, but soon other companies started making knockoffs and Atari was subsequently pushed towards developing more games. There was no other competition for Atari as the Atari 2600 set the home console standard. It had cartridges that would save games information and had a joystick. It was the console that delivered games in color and had a growing library. They truly were the king. And I still believe that if I had one, I would love to play them all over again. Now, if you closely remember those big arcade games, the first thing in mind would definitely be Space Invaders. They were released by Taito, which was a sensation in Japan. I mean, come on, anything is a sensation in Japan, but this was the real deal. The game was first released in an arcade format, which was later adapted to Atari 2600. It generated about $500 million during its lifetime. Similarly, games like Pac-Man made about $1 billion within its first 15 months. It was the first game to be adapted by Atari and the first to have animated main character. Now, to this date, there are many that set the benchmark. Games like Donkey Kong by Nintendo was a massive hit. Similarly, Tetris and Mario broke records. But the big thing came when NES was released in CES. Well, that kinda rhymes. The first 8-bit gaming console by Nintendo Entertainment Systems was a breath of fresh air. NES soon became the best-selling console, and with the games like football, it was on fire. Now, we've talked quite a bit about the home consoles, but the next big thing was portable gaming. In 1989, Nintendo released the iconic 8-bit handheld called the Game Boy. It was packed with games like Tetris, and later there were Mario Bros and Donkey Kong, which led the sales of the Game Boy to more than 400 million devices. The Game Boy was a true innovation and a path to portable gaming. There were many knockoffs as well, which meant that Nintendo were on the right track. But how long could one company hold the reign? Sega soon joined the game. No puns intended. But the 16-bit NES was already in the market by then, and popular titles like Mario and Legend of Zelda made NES unbeatable. On the other side, SimCity, a computer-based game, was rejected because they never believed that the gameplay would sell to a wider audience. Of course, they were completely wrong, as the computer games started getting better and better. Games like Doom, the first ever first-person shooter, and Warcraft were widely accepted. The PC reign was soon to start as more and more people developed games for our PCs. Now, since PCs were already in everyone's homes, developers had an opportunity. Many great games have been created for PCs since then, and it still truly stands out even today. Now, getting back to the consoles, in 1994 a revolutionary device surfaced, the PlayStation. Sony shipped over 100 million units over the span of 9 years. It was not until 2001 that Microsoft came up with their very own console, the Xbox. It was the first ever American game console after Atari Jaguar. Since then, Xbox and PlayStation have been in constant competition, which of course is a great news for us gamers, as we get better graphics and better games to play with. Now, even consoles are a part of history, as the only new innovation in them are spec upgrades. But the next revolution came in the form of handheld again. After the evergreen Snake game on Nokia devices, there hadn't been much better games for mobile devices as such. But after Apple's revolutionary App Store, a whole new level of game development began. Titles such as Angry Birds, Fruit Ninja, Temple Run made it to our palms, and since then, there have been sequels of the popular handheld games. Today at the App Store and Google Play, there are hundreds and thousands of games available. The global games market reached 99.6 billion, and 37.5% of those are generated from mobile games alone. So is that it? Are we in a rut now? We haven't heard a lot about major improvements in consoles, PCs or even mobiles. Everything is quite at a standstill with no major improvements. But wait, we have the VR now. Virtual reality seems to be the next big step in gaming and media consumption. To be honest with you, even VR has a long history of its own that dates back to 1938. But it's only recently that this technology has been widespread. VR headset the Forte VFX1 was announced at CES in 1994, but it's only today that we've widely accepted it. In 2012, crowdfunding began for the Oculus Rift. The company was later bought by Facebook in 2014. Now since then, there has been no looking back, as there are more and more companies investing in the VR, which definitely tells us that the VR is indeed here to stay. Some really good VR headsets are the HTC Vive and Samsung Gear VR, just to name a few. Many games are being developed for VR headsets, and even GPU manufacturing company Nvidia have their new graphics card tuned into VR so that they can handle the graphic-intensive VR easily compared to previous GPUs. So this shows that VR is truly the future of gaming. So that is it for this video, guys. I hope you like our contents. We will definitely be coming out with more like these. Do subscribe, and until next time, you guys have a great day.